Okay, so I finished collecting my data. You can see I've got 10 data points. Now for your table, you are starting with, I think I had said 60 grams for mass 2, and then mass 1 starts at 65, then 70, 75, and it goes up until you've got 10 data points. So now that we've finished collecting our data, what we can do is we can prepare to create both graphs. The first graph, remember, is just raw data. And then the second graph is this one, t squared on the y-axis, and then this funny fraction, the sum of masses divided by the difference of the masses. That's the x-axis of our processed data graph. All right then, I've already got my raw data, so that graph should be good to go. Now what I need is my x value will be big M plus little m, divided by big M minus little m. And I hit enter. I can click up on the E and then click on those two lines and drag over to expand the width of the column. Notice that when you do this ratio, you've got mass in the numerator, mass in the denominator, and so those masses will cancel out altogether. Then over here, what I'm going to have is t squared. And so for squaring, I can just type t and then caret 2. And what happened to my t? There we go. And the unit for this would be seconds squared. When you square the time, you square the seconds as well. So let me get seconds squared and hit return. Normally we would worry about adding a superscript text instead of using the caret, but we're not gonna go that far for this lab. Now it's time to use formulas to calculate the values that I have in the headings. So here I have to double tap, and every time you calculate with the formula, you click equals. So I need parentheses, and I'm going to do this big mass, 55, so I click on it. My little mass, in my case, was 50, and in your case, I think it was 60. So I do the sum divided by the difference. So again, I click on B3 once more, and then I do minus, and then I type the little mass 50, which that was the case for my experiment. Close the parentheses, hit return, and there we go. I'm going to do the same thing here, type a formula. So you always start formulas with equals. I click on the value of t, then I do caret to square or raise to the power of. I raise it to the power of 2, I hit return, and we are good to go. Now I can highlight these two cells, and again I use that circle in the corner to highlight. Then I'm going to click the fill button, and then I click that box in the bottom right corner, that green box, and I drag it down, and I have just copied the formula that I typed out for every single cell. This one is using 80, the next one is using 85. If I go down, the next one is using 90. When you copy the formulas down, the cell reference, which is that C7, and then, and then in the next row it's C8. Let me hit the back arrow, and let's hit the X to get out of the formula. When I click into this, the cell reference C9 has moved down, and so let me hit the X. If you click down to here, the cell reference has moved down. So when you copy a formula down, the reference moves with it. Time to add our graphs. We highlight the data, not the column headings, just the numbers. Hit insert, charts. We are inserting scatter plots with no connector lines. So the first option on the top left. There we go. We're going to need to click on layouts and choose this first top left option so that we add axis titles. Then you can click in, Add your axis titles, make sure you include units where appropriate. And I'm going to move that down for now to make room for my second graph, which is the process data. When you highlight the data, the first column that appears is going to go onto the x-axis, and the second column that appears will go to the y-axis. So I click Charts again, Scatter. I choose the first option, the scatter plot with no connecting lines. Look at that. Wow, how straight is that? That's pretty cool. And then I click on Layouts again. This time we're going to scroll down and we're going to choose the option that has a trend line with an equation. And not so bad. That's pretty good. Again, I can add some axis titles. I can add my chart title. And then note the value right here of slope, 0.0487. Here's the final piece for us in this lab. The slope is 0.0487. What I want you to do is calculate an experimental value of the acceleration due to gravity, g. How do we get that experimental value? Well, I know the value of my slope, 0.0487. If I go back to Notability, remember that I have an equation for slope, and now I know that value, 0.0487. The distance I know as well, but think about units. Do you need to convert? I'm just going to write 24 centimeters, question mark. And you can plug in that value of d, plug in the value of slope, solve for g, just a hint. Don't forget to get it out of the numerator, out of the denominator. And what I want you to do is show these calculations right here in your Notability file. So write down the value of your slope. Then you will calculate the value of g and include units. Then you will calculate the raw error, which is just the experimental minus the theoretical or the accepted value. So the accepted value, of course, is 9.81. And then the final calculation for you will be a percent error, which just takes your error, how far you were off, and says how big is that error relative to the accepted value. And then, of course, we turn it into a percentage by multiplying by 100%. So these are the 4 things that we're looking for in your PDF file: the statement of what slope did you acquire, the full calculation showing your value of g, how you got it, and then the correct answer with units. And then that experimental value, you have to calculate the error, how far off was it, and then show that error as a percentage of the accepted value, 9.81. Be sure you include units in this final answer and also in the final answer for g. And then what you're submitting to Schoology is a PDF with these 4 things. And you're also going to submit, what you can do is you can, go ahead and get your, so look at how I'm doing this, right? I'm moving my zoom to just the correct size, and then I'm going to take a screenshot so that I can see all of the things in my Excel sheet. I need to see both of these tables, this one and this one. I need to see both charts, that one and that one. And then I'm going to insert that screenshot into this Notability file, right? Insert photo, okay. All photos, and I click on my note. Whoops, that's not the right one, delete. And so I insert that photo, make it nice and big so that it's clear, and this is what you submit to Schoology. So you're only going to submit one file, but it will have both your work and also your Excel sheet. Submit that as a PDF to Schoology, and you are done.